Welcome to the Life Science Success Podcast. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Don, and I'm a consultant in life sciences. My company helps life science companies increase capacity by providing the needed clarity in strategy, people, process, and technology so that these companies can avoid the valley of death and bring their technology to our life-saving market. And so we work across all the verticals in pharma as well as biotech and med device. And would be very interested in hearing anything that you're currently working on where you need to be able to increase capacity. And we're hearing a lot right now with the funding market and having a lot of liquidity. And so, just this idea of staying on top of your current capacity with your team is obviously something that's very important. So with that, we'll hop into the interview today. In this episode of Life Science Success, my guest is Ketan Mehta, the founder and CEO of Tris Pharma. Under his leadership, Tris Pharma has developed many innovative technologies, launched new products, and established itself as a leader among technology-driven companies. So with that, welcome, Ketan.
Thank you, Don. And it's really a pleasure to be here and excited to looking forward to talk to you.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Could you just take a moment and tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm the founder and CEO of Tris Pharma, a company I started in 2000, and we are pretty much located here in New Jersey and doing everything by and large in New Jersey.
Yeah, and primarily, I'm sure we're going to dive in a little bit more in terms of the products. But what made you, really want to start Tris Pharma? What was the driving factor in that?
So I think I started in pharmaceutical industry first as a scientist, and then I was in a commercial B2B role for a number of years. And I worked for different companies. And what I saw is that there is really a need for a technology and science-driven medications that can really improve what we have and make them better. And that was also my craft, and I thought I would apply that. And really, it's been a kind of that idea that started, and then we have grown from there.
It's very good. And then, in terms of the company vision and mission, how is that vision and mission for Tris Pharma evolved since its inception?
Yeah, I think it's been a great journey. Of course, we have had few twists and turns along the way. Because when I started, I wanted to focus just on science and technology, and really wanted to help develop as many medications as we can. But what also you realize, our industry has been changing a lot. So over the years, we have started focusing on also making our own medication, focusing on patients. And as much as you develop technology, you also see how it is impacting the patients. And really, that's how we have evolved today. And today we have really a unique products, highly differentiated products in ADHD, and we have now a pipeline of products in narcolepsy, spasticity, and pain and addiction. So really, we are becoming a much more diversified CNS company.
Very good. And then, in terms of being a CNS company, I can kind of see, also there's an evolving market around you. Where do you see the company in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think I see that in next 5 to 10 years, you will see Tris as one of the hottest company, if I can say that, because I think we have a pipeline which is very unique. We have an ADHD product portfolio that is really exclusive and is going to be exclusive for a number of years. And we are adding more products on pain and addiction spectrum. So you will see that we would be in the CNS and neurology space for next 5 to 10 years and doing more and more, while we will be still focusing on technology and trying to add more innovation in that and how we go about it.
Okay. And then Tris Pharma also emphasizes its novel technology specializing in liquid XR. Can you share more about the inception of the technology and the impact it's had on the pharmaceutical industry?
Yes, thank you. In fact, that is very close to the heart, so to say, because that really started to set us up. So when I started, and I think what I can do with the technology, and a group of a young scientists here, and we started focusing on that there is a lot of products available as a pill, as a solid dosage form, which can be taken once a day rather than multiple times a day. But there was no such option for children, or if you had a problem swallowing a medicine, how you take this product. So this was really the genesis of the opportunity, idea, whatever you can say. But it has really changed a lot of patients' lives because really now you have an option not only to take a once a day product in liquid form, but you can really titrate in the smallest amount as in liquid what you want to take. You also can say, I want to take a little more dose today. You can do that. You cannot take that with anybody or any other forms unless you have a long acting liquid. Now, if it is a pure liquid, you can do that, but otherwise it becomes challenging. And we think that has made a huge difference in certain treatment, such as ADHD and pain and so forth.
And is this something as well that you work with other companies to help provide their dose in a liquid form as well, or is it primarily things that the only things that go into your products?
No, actually, that's a very good point. Thanks for asking, because something that we have developed, we routinely want to partner with different companies. We do that. If there are products which are now very close to what we are doing, probably we may not offer them. But if even if for the product that we are selling, if companies have their own molecule, we absolutely want to help them develop that in the form, because ultimate goal is to reach patients, no matter how you do that.
Yeah, it's a really important point. I mean, I could see, lots of needs and uses for it. I mean, we were talking about our parents, aging before the show got started, and I know my mom, as she's gotten older, it becomes harder and harder to take some of these medicines just because of her ability to swallow the pills and things like that. And so, obviously, I could see, that where that would be very important, especially whenever you have some of these the CNS impacting diseases as well.
Right, no, absolutely, and that's what we are focusing on. In fact, some of the also medications have side effects, which essentially create what you call problems of swallowability, for example, and that's why it is very important that we understand and we have options, not just to our newer medicine, but also make it very user friendly or patient friendly, as we like to say.
Yeah. And then, in terms of fostering innovation, what sort of challenges have you uh, faced in terms of maintaining this culture? I just think about the evolution that all of us went through recently, right? So we all had to do the work from home during COVID. A lot of different organizations, I feel like, have sort of evolved back to some sort of a hybrid schedule for some roles, but for others, it's very challenging. Whenever you have a culture of innovation like Tris Pharma, I just envision that managing that has got to be a challenge as well.
Yeah, look, I'm very fortunate because I have a group of R&D dedicated scientists. They love what they do, and they have been throughout pandemic were here on site. So, except for very small period when it was a lockout where I couldn't be here, I'm always on site, and so we genuinely focus on that what you call innovation or really thinking out of the box. And to give you one very quick example, you talked about LiquiXR. When we started it, we were really puzzled at how we were able to manufacture this idea. So we develop in lab. It's easy to develop something in lab, but when you take it to the next level and the scale, we realized that we are going to have a challenge. So we came up with a machine that does 7 or 8 different things, and we got the machine built for us. And we have now multiple of such machines that we use, and that is how we overcame. So you have to really, in order to foster that, you have to, of course, completely be involved, in my opinion, with your key people, challenge them, encourage them, and in case some things don't work out, no, you give the honest feedback, but you really still cherish them because those are the ideas that take us to the next level, and that's really the currency for growth in future. That we have to really be innovative, otherwise you're not going to sustain yourself.
It's funny because I've written a lot about different topics recently around leadership, and one of the key sort of discussions that I had in one of my posts was this discussion around resilience versus diversity and which one is more important, overall inside of an organization. And I sort of it made me reflect, right, that this idea of having being diverse is important. However, there are some characteristics like being innovative, having some of that groundwork in place that you can then leverage diversity from. Otherwise, if you're not going to be innovative and you're sort of not a resilient organization, I feel like this idea of having diverse ideas just really could be lost as well. But it sounds to me like you've got this sort of culture where you sort of you set a high bar for people, and you say, look, this is kind of where I want people to be, but you're also not sort of dominating that end decision and the direction that your team is taking either.
No, it's actually absolutely true, and you cannot, because that's the sure way where you lose that creativity. You have to listen. You have to have an open mind. In
Mm.
fact, one of our core elements or core values is that you need to have an open mind, and that allows you to be challenged. You go with a set idea. Oftentimes, I'll go with saying, "Look, we cannot afford to do this, or we don't want to do this," and team comes up and says, no, you have to do this. Look at this, what happens, XYZ. And you have to say, you know what, this is very interesting, and you change it. And I think, to me, this is and in fact, with these entrepreneurial companies are built on this. And if you can't do that, then you are not really focused on the right, I think, values, so to say. So no, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, yeah. And your website mentions that you have patient-inspired technology, which I think is really an important approach as well for companies. Can you provide examples of how patient feedback or their needs have directly influenced the product development at Tris Pharma?
Yeah, no, actually, that's interesting. You really have read my, by the way, website. So I think, to me, I give you one example. So we have a product in narcolepsy that we are preparing to submit an NDA sometime next year. And one of the reason, and this is a very interesting story. This is a drug. It's a blockbuster drug, and we talk about LiquiXR, and we combine LiquiXR with another technology. So this is a drug for sleep. Okay, this is for patients who have narcolepsy or cataplexy, and you take the first dose at night so that you can sleep, but you have to put an alarm to wake up in the middle of night to take a second dose.
No, wow.
Yeah, and because it's so important, and it's such a large amount of dose that you drink as a liquid, so much inconvenience. Plus, this drug has a very high level of sodium in it. So we said, if we can do this, which our LiquiXR platform, it would be wonderful. What we realized is that this drug cannot be absorbed from beyond stomach area. So we developed another approach, what we call raft work, where drug actually, once you drink, becomes a raft. It stays in stomach, it doesn't go up to intestine for a while, and that keeps releasing drug slowly. So you do not have to take that second dose. And and then we also removed, the way we did this, that we removed sodium. So we're gonna have a very low sodium once a night version of that same drug that we hope to submit NDA for next year. So things like this. I mean, our investment in pain also is because today we see there is a huge need for patient in pain uh, because of the opioid epidemic or endemic. I mean, companies have abandoned this area because they are afraid now to invest in this. While a small company like us, we said, you know what, let's do this. So when we have had an opportunity, we have now invested, and we are taking a drug into phase 3 pretty soon.
Oh, very nice. It is when the drug will go into phase three clinical trials public or no?
Yeah, no, we have announced that we are getting that some of the work we have already started. We are screening the CROs right now. So we hope to have it before end of the year into phase three. And we'll be pursuing several different indications. So yeah, no, it's all very exciting time here, frankly.
No. How do you envision that the pharmaceutical industry will evolve in the next decade, especially with the rise of personalized medicine and digital health? I just feel like there's so much going on. We see things like, AI having an impact on the drugs that are making it to market. There's just so many opportunities where, I sitting outside of a pharmaceutical company and working with clients like you, oftentimes, I see lots of different dimensions, but it's hard as well as close as I feel to things. But maybe being a little closer to the sort of the end stage, you can kind of envision how things might play out in the next decade.
But you're right, actually. It is at one level scary, frankly. But also being a technology company and having a team here, you understand to embrace it, right? You say, okay, we're gonna see what we can take now, how we focus on it. But so in some of the CNS aspect, neurology side, it will take some time before AI and digital space will make impact. But some of these personalized medications, some of the rare disease, absolutely will change the face of the medication and treatments. So at one level, that means it's exciting time. But absolutely, it's also quite there's so much also noise, right? So it's definitely both. It's a mixed bag, in my opinion. And I think at one level we all have to see how it all evolves, and it will be. I think it will be nice stuff. I'm excited overall because it does open up more avenues for sure for treatment. And it's good to be a patient at one level, if it is such a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like just the levels of technology and the way that things have evolved before. I said this in a previous podcast as well. You have Moore's law for computers. I'm wondering if we start to see a similar sort of thing, more or less on the drug side. If we could solve some of these, late stage clinical trial failures in the industry with AI, that would be phenomenal. I think for everybody to not have to spend all the money and time, as well as sort of disappointing the patients along the way. And then on another front, you're just kind of seeing even like with gene editing and some of the new drugs that are coming out. It just seems to me like there's a lot of opportunity overall in this space, and I see sort of the possibility of acceleration, and in a way, like you said, it's exciting, but it's also a little scary.
It is, right. Once when the CRISPR came out, for example, as you know, we were also a little bit scared. It gets people. Where is the how people going to manipulate this as well? So I think you're right. Absolutely, it is. It is a double-edged sword. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody were looking to get into being an entrepreneur in life sciences, and they want to own their own pharmaceutical company or venture in the healthcare sector, what advice would you give to somebody that is just getting into this space?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I would say, having gone through this journey myself, I would say that probably three things. First, make sure you really are clear as to why you want to be an entrepreneur. Uh, be clear in your heart and your mind, your motivation. Second, that you make sure that you are really prepared to go all the way. Meaning what? That you are prepared to burn the boats once you reach the island, okay, and not really look back, because that's important. Sometimes people go on both sides, and I see it is not bad, but then you really do not create that momentum and drive. I'm all for the drive, that it is so important. And I think third thing also, you have to look at the end of the day what impact it is going to have. How, especially in our industry, how are you going to impact the patients at the end of the day? That you have to have a focus, because a lot of time technology is cool, But if it is not impacting patients and it's not changing some ways or form their lives or not adding value to them, I think it's not going to be as successful as you would expect. And so I think I would say these are the three things I would say. So if we look at that big picture wise, and of course, I think if you have that three mind in your mind very clear, I think generally chances are you'll be successful.
Yeah, I feel like the idea of helping people, oftentimes comes up, in these conversations, in terms of, starting with kind of that end in mind, that where you want to be and what you want to do. This idea of, sort of, also, knowing and making a strong decision or strong commitment is what I heard in the other part of your answer, with sort of, I think of burning the bridge behind you. I oftentimes would tell teams, look, the only path is forward. So we have to find our way, and be smart about the decisions that we make to plot that path forward as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
So there are three questions that I like to ask every guest. What
hmm
inspires you?
Uh, I think when what inspires me, I think I think possibilities in terms of what's possible when you are really want something or want to do something. And especially, I think America is such a truly a land of free, in my opinion. Because I often say I grew up in India. I came as a student. I'm not sure my story is easily I could duplicate back even in home. Maybe I can, maybe I'm not. But I think knowing that, and then one of the great thing about America is that we cherish other people's success. So I think the possibilities, I have to say, the kind of things that we can do, that inspires. I mean, I am always the glass is full type of person, so I will always see it that way, and that I think is inspiring. I mean, I follow the stories of inspiring people, leaders and things like that. So I think I would say that's inspirational. How an underdog against all odds makes the things, right? We all like that, but believing in that and delivering on that, I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And always inspiring to, think about the overall possibilities. I think many of us, eventually, for most Americans, right, you trace back, most of our history. At some point we had a relative that immigrated, but oftentimes it's very far removed from where we are today. And so I mean, I my uh, great great grandfather, I believe, was the first immigrant, on the Davis side, that immigrated into the United States. And strangely enough, he stayed north and went all the way across the United States, in the very northern part of the United States. And I was like, why wouldn't you like pick something easier? So I could only imagine cutting across from, coming into the country near Boston, and then cutting across to South Dakota. I could only imagine just the weather that he would have encountered in most of that trip as well. So, yes,
And
your story is unique for you, but at the same time, at some point, we had a relative that did something similar.
isn't that, yeah, that's the amazing part about it, that I mean, look at those people who literally came on the board. I mean, I came nicely in a nice plane and all that, right? But those guys came in uncertain time, uncertain journey, risk. I think fascinating story. Yeah, it's always fun to listen to all that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I mean, I've had friends that arrived in the United States, and all they had were, still, on an airplane they arrived, but still all they had were the clothes in their suitcase, and no real place to go once they were here. So, I know that there are real hardships that people still live through, and it's amazing to know that people, would commit themselves, to doing that as well. Quite a journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
What concerns you?
What concerns me, I would say uh, uh, that fear of having not control in a situation, so to say, or a system which is very restrictive today. For example, I think the choices that we enjoy take it for granted if they were gone. For example, that is concerning. Our healthcare system, if it is not productive, so to say, or at a personal level, that if I'm not able to add value or not impactful, I think those are the things probably. I mean, these are what I call healthy insecurities of life. I think those probably have to say that concern me. Yeah, I mean, of course, there are daily challenges from traffic to anything, but those really are minor when we look at the big things in the life, right? So I think, yeah, that would be, we can't take our freedom for granted, for example, in things of that nature, systems, uh, so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's it'd be very concerning to know that you're not adding value. I would imagine though that a personality like yours, you would do something about that as well. So
You're driven that way, unfortunately. So yeah, it's glad I'm doing what I'm doing. I love it. So thank you.
very good. Last question: what excites you?
Hmm. I think I think it kind of the similar equation that what we can accomplish. I think the future kind of excites you. I think the people, that ability to add value. I think that we have freedom to do everything. Also, I think to me that again the possibilities also is good. Right today, look at that. 30 years ago, we invented a computer, so to say, meaning it from a larger mass perspective. And today we are talking AI and almost automation in every sphere of life. I mean, in 30 years, we have pretty much changed the world, so to say. So I think that the fascinating, but also a little scary. But yeah, I think that's the exciting part, of how we will evolve, and I think that's the fun part. So I think that is, yeah. Again, I would say that excites. I mean, you have to look forward to. You have to say what's going to come, and that kind of, I think, excites me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just I look at the future with a little bit of reservation about. I wonder what the I wonder what our ancestors would have said as well, right? I mean, so if you go back, I don't know, 100 years, and you said, hey, look, are there things in your generation that essentially are changing the ground level of your exact generation? I would imagine the answer would be yes, and they would talk about transformational things around transportation at that point in time, or just drastic things that were going on in nearing the industrial age. Those sort of things just make me wonder, right, in terms of
Right.
the what people would have seen way back then, and then are we seeing something almost as equally similar right now? And because we're living it, we're just you know yes, it's inspiring, but yet at the same time, it's one of those things that we know could have a big impact on our generation as well.
I remember as a kid watching Star Trek back in India, that show. And I mean, look, almost we are halfway. We are there, not halfway. Maybe I'm a little exaggerating, but and you're right. You have to have that unabashed enthusiasm. Otherwise, you can't go forward. And I think that's exciting at one level for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Ketan, thank you so much for coming on the Life Science Success Podcast. I greatly appreciate you being here. I really am truly looking forward to watching Tris Pharma and the vast impact that your organization is going to have. So thanks a lot for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you, Don. Thank you for having me. It's really, really, it was a pleasure.
Thanks a lot.